Stormbreakers, Stormbringers, and Legacy Leavers. It's all about the heroics and grit in the league this year. And here with us to talk about the UAP in 2023 is basketball analyst, a legend in his own right, a hero of UP. Ladies and gentlemen, Jego Dario. Jego, how are you?
Good to be back here on the show, guys. Last episode of the year.
Last episode of the year. Yep. Excited to have you. Siyempre, we had to end it with fireworks. So let us all go back and talk about some of the biggest heroes that we've seen here in the UAP. And I want to start off first with LJ Gonzalez because buzzer beater hitter, it felt like he was a big shining light in what was a relatively uneven campaign.
Right.
What was it about LJ that stood out to you?
Well, so many things happened in the UAP. Just in the first and second round, you can pick so many moments. But I picked this moment for LJ just because it shows how all the games in the UAP are magnified. We could see that FEU that time, they weren't even fighting for the Final Four anymore, but Ateneo was. And they beat them twice this season, capped it off with a buzzer beater by LJ Gonzalez. And it just shows that no matter how low you are in the standings, if you beat these big teams, it happens in the UAP a lot, it spells the difference by the end of the Final Four. And it showed in the Final Four. Ateneo had to play for that last spot for the Final Four just because of those two losses. If they didn't lose to FEU in the first two rounds, they would probably be automatic in the Final Four. So
well,
big
Diego,
games.
I'm very curious about this thing, How do you get all the guts? Like, when you launch that gutsy three-pointer, how do you parang gather all that confidence? Like, how does decision-making play a role in those crucial moments? Of course, as, a former player, how would you...
Kapal na mukha nito eh.
Yeah, I mean, I think number one is confidence. No matter if you're missing so many shots in the game, at the end of the day, if you have confidence in the work that you put in, you're gonna have confidence in taking those game winners. I think LJ had that. He was shooting 20% from the three-point line the whole season before that shot. So imagine if you were thinking about the percentage. Oh, I'm shooting 20%. I'm not gonna shoot this three. Hindi niya mashoot yung game winner against FU. But because he had the confidence, and number two, he had the confidence of his teammates, his coaches, right? They gave him the ball at that moment. The coaches drew up a play for him. And that gives you all the confidence as a player to take those kinds of shots. Right. So it's not just, oh, I'm confident, I'm him, I'm gonna do it. It takes a whole community to give you that kind of confidence from the coaches, teammates, from the FEU community, and from LJ himself.
That's right. It looks individual, but it's actually a team thing wherein you give confidence to this one guy. And of course, we got the perfect guest for that particular topic. Let's take a look at another moment here. And we want to talk about individuals' heroics, but then here let's focus on a team. DLSU in the second round was unbeatable, untouchable. They had a lot of great games in that stretch. And you take a look at what it takes to go on a streak like that, because it was not necessarily a great end to the first round for them.
Right.
But it's the second round, it all changed.
Right. It was a shaky first round for DLSU, the champions of this season. And the question was, can they beat the big teams? They lost to UP, they lost to NU, and they lost to Ateneo. So all the big teams, the Final Four teams, they lost in the first round. But in the second round, something clicked for LaSalle. I think it's because of their culture. The culture that Coach Topex built here in LaSalle, and just his first year, is just a culture of learning, loving the process, loving each other. He told me that after the finals game, that it was about learning every single time. And the trajectory of that team really went from, struggling about their identity to winning all the games in the second round. I think when we talk about being in the zone as players, being in the zone as broadcasters, LaSalle was in the zone collectively, from the coaching staff to the players, that whole second round. And it was a beauty to watch them play.
And speaking of culture, I'm pretty sure Pao is very much aware of the LaSallian culture.
He's very happy, actually. After that game, I was like, wow, Pao is a...
But he's wearing blue right now.
Yeah, it's different. No, I knew you were my co-host today.
But then, sorry, I've got to ask this also, Diego. No, like, of course, there's KQ, this very stellar performance all throughout the season for LaSalle. How does this versatility of his play a role in the LaSallian, community, the culture, or maybe the basketball culture in the?
I think we're just blessed to see a generational talent. Like, not even generational. He's probably one of one. We haven't seen anyone like Kevin Kembao, we're blessed to see him in the UAAP. I mean, I covered the 2 games that he secured the triple-double. That's history. To secure 2 triple-doubles in one season and just to secure a triple-double for LaSalle. So KQ is a different animal, and he was really like the leader for this team. And it's different because after that rookie year, he kind of like, he said he was going to be rookie MVP, right? It didn't work in
Didn't
his
work
first
out,
year.
yeah.
But here in the second year, he was like, okay, I figured it out. I'm him. I'm going to do all the things that I really want to do.
Look, we felt really bad that he didn't win rookie MVP, but then he gave us championship, so quits na tayo.
Quits na.
Oh, quits na kami. So,
And he's going to stay. He
and
said
he's gonna stay. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, KQ. Maraming salamat. All right, Jerome Lastimosa, since we talked about different animals, it felt like it wasn't just his school's community cheering for him. It felt like the entire UAAP was rooting for this guy. Horrible luck with injuries, and he wasn't 100%. You know what it means for a player to get injured, the frustration, and then sometimes rushing it. Just when you take a look at Jerome's year, what was it for you?
I think more than the physical, of course, there's the pain of the injury, of training back to make sure that you can play. But it's all the mental part of it. Jerome can just, as an athlete, you feel that you can just quit anytime. Why are you even doing this? But because he loves the game so much, he loves the Adamson community so much. He loved Adamson so much that he rejected offers internationally to play his last year in Adamson. I mean, that just says a lot about the heart of Jerome Lastimosa. And it also shows how UAAP players develop also. He wasn't a highly recruited player. I mean, who even was Jerome Lastimosa? When we played them in the Final Four his rookie year, we were like, who's this guy hitting the shot to force overtime? He had 17 points in the Final Four. We were like, he wasn't even in the scouting report, and he scored 17 points. And that was the birth of a Jerome Lastimosa. And that's what the UAP gives to players, an opportunity to shine. If you work hard, eventually you'll get your moment. And Jerome Lastimosa had his moments. He brought Adamson back to the Final Four. His jersey was retired for Adamson. I mean, everyone loves Jerome Lastimosa. And his last moment for Adamson was beautiful. Ateneo gave him the ball. He shot it for buzzer beater to shoot the 3. I mean, how can you cap off your final moment in the UAP by hitting a 3-pointer while your ACL is injured?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Right, and then you mentioned that the culture, and this is what we witnessed in the UAAP, the development of these players, the stories of these players as well, and how important it is that these people also believe in you. Maybe you can share to us as a basketball player yourself, as an athlete yourself, how important it is that people believe in you. How do you handle that mentally?
As a UAP hero.
I think it's crucial because usually as fans, when we watch our idols in the UAAP or in the NBA and the PBA, we see them as individuals, right? We see them as these stars that, perform these highlights. But it takes so much for these players to perform at a high level. Their coaches who believe in him, the family members who are always there when you're injured. Knowing that you have a support group behind you, no matter if you fail or not, they're gonna love you. And I think that's what Jerome had. That's why he stayed with Adamson. And that's crucial for any athlete, not just Jerome. And I think it's important for fans to show us that. And that moment of Jerome showed us how important that community
Speaking
is.
of moments, we have a lot more moments to talk about up next. In fact, one of my favorite moments here, Lexi.
And I'm excited about that too. Well, don't go anywhere, Diego. Just stay right there, because after the break, we move over to the historic Final Four and the final series in Season 86 of the UAAP men's basketball. So stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back to the game. Well, we talked about the biggest stories that came out of the elimination round of the UAAP, but now let's talk about the road to the finals for both the UP Fighting Maroons and the DLSU Green Archers. Well, still with us to recount the history-making moments is basketball analyst Diego Dario. Diegs, we're still here with you.
Yep.
Happy to have you here. But first, let's take on the UP and the DLSU, how they advanced and how they were able to shape their narrative through the semis. So let's start with DLSU. I want to talk about DLSU. I know earlier we talked so much about the La Salle University, but of course they lost to NU in round one.
Mm-hmm.
How important was this shift in their performance in shaping the narrative, like how they set the stage in coming into the finals?
I think what's important to take a look at that is how DLSU improved from that first round, losing to NU. Like, they incrementally just got better and better as the game progressed. And I think that game against NU was the peak of their kind of like their streak. Because they didn't lose in the second round and they go up against NU, who's always a dark horse in the UAAP, and they just dominated the whole game. They shot the lights out. They were so confident in themselves. And I think, in the Final Four, it's hard to do that. Because sometimes in the Final Four, like, all the people are watching, the lights are bright, but La Salle didn't crumble to that kind of an atmosphere in the UAP. And I played, luckily I played because of my teammates, they were so good.
Yeah.
Played in the Final Four and in the finals. It's really a different atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm so happy you could say that, by the way. I want to go back to every interview that we've had that involve a Jet Manuel in general. But I want to ask about UP in particular, because UP did something a bit historic that I don't think a lot of people realize, which is that they prevented Ateneo from making it to the finals for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, Lexi. You take a look at what UP has done and the way that they took care of business against Ateneo. It felt like it was business as usual, but at the same time, it felt like it was something that UP asserting their dominance in that Battle of Katipunan, at least for the meantime.
I think that moment where UP beat Ateneo and Ateneo not making it to the finals, it just goes to show how Ateneo set the standard for in the UAAP. 7 years in the finals is a hard feat. I mean, when Coach Tab came in, of course, like the way Ateneo played leveled up all the level of basketball in different teams of the UAAP. They had the recipe of how to win a championship in the UAAP. And then you see UP, you see La Salle, they're catching up with the way they play, team basketball, the talent and the recruiting.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, we take for granted how Ateneo was in the finals for 7 years and UP and La Salle finally, defeated that powerhouse team.
Yeah, I was going to say, you maybe have taken it for granted. As a Lasallian, we never took it for granted that Ateneo was always in the finals. Yeah, but let's now move on to the final in particular, because game one for UP, fantastic.
Fantastic. I mean, they won by 30 points. Everyone thought at that point that there's no way La Salle will come back from this. How can you bounce back getting beaten by 30 points by UP, one of the most talented teams in the UAAP? And I think that kind of showed how UP's at that level also. They deserve to be in the finals. But game 2, game 3, totally different story for these two teams.
Well, I was one of the people who thought that it would end at the second game at UP, and I'm so sorry, Pao, about this.
You of little faith.
But then we've got 11 players who stood out for that game 1 in UP, right? Who were those top players? I mean, we should also mention Francis Lopez, who got 15 points, who contributed 15 points. How was he able to contribute in that game well?
I think that game by Francis Lopez was big for him in his young UAP career as a rookie in the finals and performing. He's going to remember that kind of a performance when he comes back to the finals, if they make it to the finals.
Yeah.
But that's going to top a lot of his moments in the UAP. But Harold Alarcon, Malik Diouf, they played a splendid job in the UAP in that game 1 of the finals.
Well, you know what? Before we wrap this all up, I just want to remind everyone that it was La Salle who won the championship.
Yes.
And KQ
That's why we're going to talk about this.
Absolutely.
And there's no Ateneo.
Yeah, KQ had an incredible takeover in Game 3, but of course, we'll talk a bit about him later on because we got something special here as we wrap things up.
Right, Pao. Well, we'll wrap up our rewind with Diego's All-UAAP 2023 starting lineup when we return. Keep it here. You're watching The Game. Welcome back. You're still watching the game. It's crunch time for our 2023 UAAP Men's Basketball Rewind, and we've got basketball analyst Diego Dario with my partner Paolo De Rosario for our final segment tonight. Take it away, Paolo.
And of course, for the final segment, we have the hottest topic here, which is Diego Dario's All-UAAP team. That's right, the awards that matter the most.
For this year, of course.
For this year, all right. So let's take a look at it here. Let's go through the guards first, because you have interesting choices for the guards in what has been an incredible season for guard play in the UAP.
Well, we've seen heroes born here in the UAP, especially this season. And for the guards, I chose Ray Remogat as the point guard, LJ Gonzalez as the two guard, and of course KQ. But let's talk about Ray Remogat, of course. His story is different too. Some people forget that he was a bench player last season. He wasn't even getting minutes. But he had 2 games where he exploded for, I think, 20 points in the latter part of the season for UE last season. And then, from then on, he just grabbed that opportunity all the way to the next season. You know, some players graduated or even left UE, and Ray Remogat took the opportunity. He was given the opportunity, and he made the most out of it, winning Mythical 5.
Yeah.
That's different.
And he's also second in official MVP stat race. So he put up the numbers. He really was the face of this team.
Anyone could have crumbled in his situation.
Anyone could
right?
have. But talking about guys who did not crumble, we have to talk about LJ once again, because LJ was suddenly thrust with so much responsibility this season.
Well, basically, LJ Gonzalez, he was in a team where there's so many rookies.
Yeah.
He had a couple of seniors with him, but LJ really took over for FU. They didn't make it to the Final Four, but the way he played showed, of course, if you're in the UAP and in your senior year, you're talking about getting into the pros.
Yeah.
And what he showed this season, he was saying, you know, to all these coaches, to all these scouts, that I'm ready. You know, I'm ready for the big moments. I'm ready to take big shots. And in the UAAP, you know, how important is it to hit game winners and to prove to others, to the coaches, that you're willing to take those kinds of shots?
Well, you know, we talk about being pro-ready, and this next guy, Kevin Kiambao, is not just pro-ready. He said, I'm pro-ready, but I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay 1 more year. And KQ, what more can be said about this guy?
I mean, historical. We talked about Game 1 earlier, them losing 30 points. Game 2, LaSalle won that by a lot. But Game 3, KQ really took over in that Game 3, where in Game 3, everyone's tired.
Yeah.
You know, stats don't even matter anymore at that point. You have 25,000 people inside the arena. And in that last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, I remember, they just gave the ball to KQ and let him work, whether him giving the right pass, him making big shots. And that's how legends are made.
Yeah.
What KQ did in that Game 3.
He's not yet quite the finished product, but in the UAP, he's getting close to it. Now, let's take a look at another guy here that Diego has in his list that is not yet the finished product. He is getting better, but already one of the top bigs in this particular season, Mason Amos of Ateneo.
Well, we've seen moments for Mason Amos as a power forward for Ateneo, but just moments, because he doesn't have that trust yet, maybe of Coach Tab and the coaching staff defensively. But offensively, we've seen some things that we haven't seen from a big guy like Mason Amos. His quick release from 3, the way he puts down the ball, he can create shots by himself is different. I mean, 6'6", 6'7" guy who can hit step-back threes is something to watch out for, because he has 4 more years in the UAAP.
Nakatakot yan. But of course, the last guy we have to talk about is someone who I personally feel is a bit underappreciated.
Yeah.
Though he is honestly, statistically speaking and impact-wise, one of the best guys in the UAP, Malik Diouf.
Best guys in the UAP, on the court and off the court. You know, he's been loved by a lot of his teammates and other, you know, the UAP community. But Malik Diouf, especially when Ange Kwame graduated, he was kind of that guy for UP. The way he changed the whole situation for UP, you know, always in the finals, always contending for that championship. It was because of him, because he was that main guy on defense, and on offense, he's always an option for them. So Malik Diouf, you know, he's not maybe the flashiest of them all, but he's always the most effective. In the UAP, sobrang important. like to be effective and efficient.
You know, I want to challenge all of the UP fans out there to take a look at his numbers, his final numbers, and then see where he stands in the all-time list of greatest UP players.
Yeah.
So it's
Might
gonna be
even
really
say
interesting.
might be the best one.
Do you see? That's why I want to have a debate. But
Right.
Diego, maraming salamat. Really appreciate this list. And of course, Happy New Year. Can't wait to see you next year and see what you do in 2024.
Thank you so much, guys, and Happy New Year.
All right.
Thanks, Diags. Well, what a way to cap off our last episode of the year. Thank you for joining us this 2023. I am Lexi Rodriguez.
And I'm Paulo Del Rosario. Happy New Year. And this has been The Game.